what hurts us, like the Egyptian pyramids, there's knowledge written all over the walls there, but it's weird because it's not like we're looking at the past, it's like we're looking at our future.
Isn't that amazing? I think you've hit the nail on the head right there, and you sound very excited about life, and that's good.
Oh, I am, and I just hope that you know, it's hard to articulate this, especially to people that I try to talk to around here. Are like, yeah, right, get another beer and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's
quite all right.
But I appreciate talking to you, and the last thing I'd like to say before I go is everything is balanced on time. I feel the reason why we're not leaving is because each dimension, you have a mass of people, which is the population, has to stay. The mass of energy's got to be in each dimension in order for the universe to be balanced. That's why we have the built-in mechanism of survival. No matter how much we believe that life is better on the other side, we just won't take our own lives. We won't leave and stuff like that, because if we left in a mass, it would offset the universe and the balance would be out of whack. So that's like a formula by God, I guess God, that a formula that he built into us, a mechanism that no matter what, we will not take our lives. Even an animal will fight to his last breath, if you know what I'm saying. And I appreciate the phone call, and take care.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Good call. Andy, California, you're up with us.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing, Andy.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on the shamanistic use of ayahuasca and other psychoactive plants by the Mayans and other Amazonian tribes, and how you see that tying into their prophecies and of 2012 and like the communication with otherworldly beings. Just what do you get from all that?
You know, it's very clear, whether you're talking about Mayans or you're talking about ancient Egyptians or even pre-Egyptians, that altered states of consciousness were really important. When I went into one of the more obscure Buddha, it was called the Maitreya Buddha, future Buddha, there were these glass orbs like Christmas ornaments hanging from the ceiling, and I asked my guide to ask the monks, why are there Christmas ornaments hanging from the ceiling, these glass balls? And the guy got an answer, came back to me and said, well, he thinks they're planets. I said, no, ask him a more specific question. So he went back and asked, he said, well, they're orbs. They're energy beings hanging from the ceiling. And I said, well, why are they hanging from fishing line in the ceiling? He said, well, because the dimensionally blind come in here and they want to know that the higher beings, these energy beings, these orbs, are there. And they can't see them because they're not in these altered states of consciousness like the monks are. So we hang them there so people can see them. And that gave me a clue. You're exactly right. They do seek these altered states of consciousness to get these revelations.
Yeah. Do you see the mind as using something like ayahuasca in order to communicate, like with the alien beings, like you were talking about before?
I don't know about that. I do know that I went to the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, and one of the displays they had there showed a group of villagers, and they're, say, 4 inches tall, these carved figurines, and around them are 6 beings that are clearly larger, almost double in size, and they're holding these disc glyphs, which are teaching tools that they used, and they have feathered headdresses on and feathered wings behind them. It's clear that these villagers were being taught or were communicating directly with off-world beings.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Brooks, I got to compliment you on the knowledge, the in-depth knowledge that you possess with this thing.
Oh, I'm not even halfway there, George. I mean, gosh, I have so much more to learn, and I think it's possible to learn everything, so I'm getting about it as fast as I can.
All right, next up, let's go to our wild card line. We've got Paul in Michigan. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
We're great, thanks.
Hey, Dr. Brooks, I'd like to ask you a question. Now, since you brought up the observer in different things, I'm sure you're familiar with the double slit experiment, right?
Sure. Thomas Young's double slit experiment.
Yes. And now, do you think that has any potential to showing us different dimensions by not observing things?
By not observing things?
Right.
Yeah.
The possibilities come a lot more broader when we're not so much observing? Like, almost like how you get an EVP.
Well,
you know?
this is called the release, and actually we had some great teachers that taught us how to do this. Once you make the intention, once you make the observation, then you've got to release. You've got to let go and let the universe do what it's going to do. Quite often, as mortals locked in the third dimension, we force our future thread into the universe. In other words, we say, I want to travel the world, meet people, and learn exotic things, so therefore I need $1 million. And so they focus on the $1 million, and they end up disappointed because that's not the way the universe was going to give them the opportunity to travel the world, meet people, and see exotic places. And that's called the release. When we observe something, we change it. So when we send the intention out there, we've got to let go and let the universe resonate with our intention. And then we got to listen, because when that energy comes back to us, you know, it says in Isaiah, God sends rain to the earth. Well, he doesn't expect rain back. Don't send rain back to him. He sends rain to the earth to let things grow. He gets trees and grass for his rain. Same thing with our intention. When we put it out in the universe, don't expect to get the future thread we drew. It's going to come to you in a different way, and you've got to be ready to listen.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
What's the biggest downside that can occur up to 2012 for us?
Well, the biggest downside that can occur is that the human race, gets locked into fear. If we get locked into fear, we're afraid of dying, or we're afraid of losing our wealth, or we're afraid of mass extinction, or the seas leaving their bounds. We miss the idea or miss the chance that we are actually in control, that we are the creators here. We are actually part of the total universe, and we can shift the mean any way we want as a race if we don't get locked into fear. If we fall into war and despair and greed, then we're not going to make it as a race. We are right at the precipice, George, and it's really important that we make the right steps in the next 4 years.
And who decides that? Us or
We
those
do.
people who try to control us?
Well, you know, I don't know that there are people that can control us. People say the government, and I just don't believe there is a government. If you've been to Washington as many times as I have, you know it's a loose coalition of bureaucracies. It's not really a government. There is no one really in control. We're in control. We decide what the weather is going to be like. We decide. We make our own place.
Well, you may be right about that, my friend. Let me give you another opportunity, too, to tell us about where you can get your book, The Arc of Millions of Years.
All right, well, there's two ways. You can, of course, go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy the book. But if you want an autographed copy, go to arcofmillionsofyears.com and click on whichever button applies to you, whether you're in the UK or down under or in the U.S., and then we'll send you the audio versions of Volume 1 and Volume 2 for free. That's a $40 value that you get if you buy Volume 3. We want you to have all three books, one way or the other.
Okay, Brooks, stay with us for final phone calls when we come right back on Coast to Coast AM. How will you fare through the next year with gasoline prices going crazy and everything else? That's going to be our special program on our next Coast to Coast show with a number of guests that will help you get through this. It's going to be a fascinating program, and I'm looking forward to it. And we'll come right back. We'll take final phone calls with our guest, Brooks Agnew, on Coast to Coast AM. Brooks, who did the cover of The Arc of Millions of Years, Volume 3? I mean, it's gorgeous.
Oh, I know. That was Roy Young. He's the most fantastic artist. We struggled making our own art for the first two volumes, and he just finished redoing the cover for Volume 1 and Volume 2. He's just a fabulous artist. I got to tell you a story about Roy. One of my friends, her name is Tanya Maidenford, is good friends with Roy, and he belongs to a church and rather strict Christian tradition. Mm-hmm.